Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge. This is your latest Manchester United transfer news. We're going to be talking about Ligt being the next deal. Could it be today? Fabrizio Romano with an update there. Joshua ZIRKZEE is in Manchester. He's doing his medical. We've got an update on when that could be officially announced by Manchester United. Will that be today or will it be next week? Also, we've got two big updates. Well, three, in fact. We're waiting on one player to give the green light to exit. That could be today. We've also got two other players. One we revealed at the start of the week, moving closer to another Premier League club from Manchester United. And talks begin on another player exiting Manchester United. Also, a little bit on Leny Yoro as well, and a few other bits as well. It's the United Stand. It's the morning show. We've got lots to get into. I hope you're all doing very, very well. Really enjoyed the last night's show as well with Kev. Really, really good. I was sat in the pub listening to that. Lovely stuff to have a break. Well done. Let's go. So look, we're going to start off talking about Ligt. We know that ZIRKZEE is in Manchester at the moment. He's about to do his medical. In fact, he may well have done his medical by now. Will Man United get that officially announced today with the shirt and everything? We'll discuss that. I think there is a theory that it could happen. There is also a theory it could happen on Monday. But let's talk about the latest around who could be coming in next, because I think that has got quite a big impact on how quickly Manchester United will want to move on ZIRKZEE if they want to move on to something else and be doing other medicals. So this is the latest from the mouth of Fabrizio Romano. He says, we expect Ligt to be the next signing for Manchester United. There is an agreement between Ligt and United on a 5-year deal. Negotiations are ongoing with Bayern around a €50 million package. United want to use add-ons as part of the deal structure. United are prepared to complete this deal. Ligt is the big candidate to be the next signing. So could we get that done today? Well, look, I think the way Man United are working and operating at the moment, I think we're on schedule. I think maybe 2 days ago when we hadn't announced ZIRKZEE, there was a bit of, discontent about we've not done any deals yet, but suddenly ZIRKZEE's having his medical, it's deal done, it's here we go, we just want the quotes and the shirt to be held up, and he goes on holiday, and he'll be on holiday by tomorrow, and then you're on to the next one, and maybe Ligt wants to go on holiday as well, and then you've got 2 in the bag, and then you're looking at 3, and then you're looking at 4, and you've not even gone on tour, and you're going, you know what, if we've got 4 players in, by the time we go on tour to America, you've got 5 weeks left of the summer transfer window to get in 2 or 3 more players and clear out the shit, and we'd be in a great position. So I think we're on track at the moment. I think there's a lot to be encouraged by. I do take on board that, ZIRKZEE could flop. I said that yesterday. Ligt could flop. Agate, if he comes in, could flop. But you've got to make the right intentions. And I've got to say, I don't want to rank signings, but I'm so in on the Ligt deal now. I mean, I really do want this to happen. I think with ZIRKZEE, it became very obvious that deal was going to happen. I still do worry about the Ligt deal. I still do feel like there is the potential for something just to swerve towards the end at some point, and I don't want that to happen. I just want to get it done. I want to get it over the line. I certainly don't think that it was. I don't think it was a deal that I was thinking we would do. However, I think that, Erik ten Hag's always going to want Ligt. Having worked with him at Ajax, the Dutch connection, we know about that. But the fact that, Ineos and their team have said that Ligt's the right player, that'll do for me. I mean, look, we're always going to have our opinion, aren't we? As fans, we will always have our opinion. And I would not have put Ligt in my top 5 options for Man United back in February or March. But this is what you want your football club to do. And this used to happen when we were competent. I think for the last few years as fans, we've had to find the solution. We should be buying this player. We should be selling that player. And it's actually quite nice because we'll continue doing that. But it's actually quite nice when you've got a football club that portrays some level of confidence that you sort of go, well, I wouldn't have gone for Ligt. I don't know why we're going for Ligt. And then you think it through and you go, I actually quite like this deal. And that's how I feel about Ligt. There's no doubt he's a good player, but he would not have been a player I was going back in February, March. We need to go and sign Ligt from Bayern Munich. But now that that's the deal and that's the play that Ineos and Ten Hag are playing, I'm looking at it and I'm going, I'm quite intrigued by this. What do they know about this deal that we weren't thinking about this back in January, February and March? We were talking about Tadibos and Branthwaites and Bramers and other people. What is it about Ligt that Ineos have looked at with their specialisms of, you know, Berardi and Wilcox, etc. And they've gone, yeah, this guy who was brilliant as a teenager at Ajax, went to Juventus, did okay, went to Bayern, did okay, but has ultimately left those clubs quite quickly. What is it about him at 24, 25 that makes him a player for Manchester United that's going to make us go to another level? And I'm intrigued to see all that, because there are concerns about potential injuries. There are concerns about why, if he was so good, did he leave Juventus, and why, if he's so good, does he leave Bayern Munich? But on the other hand, it's a little bit like somebody looking at something and going, they're not using it properly. We can really do something here. I mean, look, he needs to be starting for the Dutch. He needs to be one of the top 5 centre-backs in the world. That's what you need to do if you're going to spend the money we're going to spend on him. But I'm excited about it. You know, I feel that a lot of the players that we're looking at, and it's the same with ZIRKZEE, and I don't know what you think, but it's like project. I think project footballers, and this started with Rasmus and Martinez to a certain extent. Project players that maybe the media, maybe external, maybe, you know, people who don't want to get on board, they look at it and go, what's that all about? What's that all about? But, you know, I've always liked United buying project players, whether it's Ronaldo. And I mean, look, Rooney was very expensive, but he's still a project player. He's a teenager, you know, bringing the likes of Beckham through, you know, taking Cantona from Leeds, you know, projects, different types of projects. And I think we're looking at project players. We're looking at potential. We're looking at improvement. I mean, De Ligt's not potential at 24, 25, but he is a project. There's more you can get out of that. And I think that is something we've got to do it. We don't have infinite budgets. You know, I think if we did have what Man City have got over the last 10 years, maybe we'd be looking at other players. But look, I'm excited, I'm realistic, and I really do want to get that deal done. So if as Fabrizio says, it's likely our next signing announcement is going to be De Ligt, I would like to get that done today. I would like to be here we go today or tomorrow, because, you know, ZIRKZEE's off on holiday now after today, and De Ligt needs a holiday. So is he going to do his medical before he goes on holiday? That would be great. Patrick Lynch says, deal shows that United's scouting and transfer policy is one that's something that isn't predictable anymore. Previously would have known with months who we're getting. And I love that, Patrick, because who's the left back we're getting? Get in the chat. If someone tells me the left back we're getting, fair play. Just give me De Ligt, Sean Paul voice, says KD Benz. Also, morning Mark, regarding Yoro, we had this with Benzema. We bid 25 million to Lille and got accepted, but he chose Madrid. Do you think history repeats itself? Well, I've got an update on Yoro. We'll talk about that in a moment. When will Berardi start, says Ahmed. I think I heard that Berardi starts mid-July, so that would be Monday, surely. But I don't know whether... I think Berardi's been working in the background anyway, because there was those leaks of the emails, wasn't there? Anyway, let's just talk about a few exits. We spoke to you on Monday, was it? Might have even been last week, about watch out for a bid from West Ham for Wan-Bissaka. Coming out again this morning from Court Offside website that West Ham are keen on making a move to sign Manchester United defender Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He's got 1 year left on his deal, and West Ham want to sign him, and he's on their shortlist. So big up to Sam C, who works on the United stand. He put that out there at the start of the week. We covered it on a morning show. Well, look at what's happening towards the end of the week. That is now building momentum that West Ham will put in a bid for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, which is what we spoke about a few days ago. So fair play for that. I think it's another exciting development. I mean, we are awash with stories in and out at the moment. I mean, we're literally waiting for, you know, holding up the shirt of ZIRKZEE, another here we go for De Ligt, maybe another bid for Branthwaite, a decision from Yoro, the green light from Greenwood, the Casemiro talks with Saudi club, I'll tell you about in a moment. And then there's other bids that could come in, and I expect more bids to come in as well. I mean, what's happening with Victor Lindelof? What's happening with Harry Maguire? Is there an opportunity to sell Scott McTominay? So there's a hell of a lot more going on. But of course, with the Aaron Wan-Bissaka thing, if West Ham come in with a decent offer, what I've been told is that Wan-Bissaka will seriously consider it. He's in a position where, look, Man United, good wage, year left on his contract, will be the deputy to Dalot again, could play quite regularly, puts himself in a good position next summer when he's out of contract, you know, pure profit for himself, etc. But wants to play football. And going back to London, playing for a Premier League club, new contract, first team starter. There's a lot to like about that. And I think Wan-Bissaka for the last 18 months has been in a position where he will leave Man United if there's a good offer on the table that the club accept, because he wants to play first team football. 26, still got his best years ahead of him, just wants to play first team football, and he's definitely bloody good enough to do it. I mean, one thing I will say about Wan-Bissaka is that I've never really seen anybody say that he's completely useless. I mean, I've seen people say it about other people, but I've never really seen people say that Wan-Bissaka's useless. I think people have said he's limited going forward, but defensively, he's one of the better right-backs in the game. And I think when you look at West Ham, when you look at Everton, when you look at, you know, certain teams in this league, they're going to be defending more than they attack. And if you've got a right-back like Wan-Bissaka, he's a real asset. So there won't be a shortage of interest in him. And he's not dreadful going forward. I don't think he's good enough going forward to play for a top 4 side, but he's not dreadful going forward, but defensively he's very good. So if you're a team that's going to be defending a lot, I think he's a really, really good signing. And I think there's a deal there to be done. And then obviously the flip side of that coin is factually, absolutely nailed on, when and if Wan-Bissaka leaves Manchester United, we've got to buy a right back. And who are we going to buy? I mentioned there, tell me the left back. And that's exciting. Who is the left back we're going to sign? Really excited to see who that's going to be, because we've got to buy one. But at right back, it's even more essential. People say we've got to buy a left back, and we do. But Malacia and Shaw and Amas, all right, there's 3 different issues there. 1 might not be ready in Amas. 2, Malacia is still injured. And 3, Luke Shaw is injury prone. So you do need to buy a left back. But look at right back. If Wan-Bissaka goes, Delo. There's no young right back coming through that's being touted at the moment. There's no backup right back at the moment if Wan-Bissaka goes. So you've got to buy a right back if Wan-Bissaka goes. And where do you go then? I mean, look, you know my theory on Frimpong. I would love us to sign Frimpong. I want us to sign Frimpong for my own selfish desires, because I think he'd be brilliant for us. But I'd also love us to buy him so we can sit down, everyone in the chat, and go, he's not a right back. But I think he offers so much to United, especially if we're not going to buy a winger. I think Frimpong offers a lot of creativity down that right-hand side. And if you can manipulate your team enough to allow him to play forward a lot, you've got a lot of creativity coming from Frimpong. But I don't know about that. All I would say is, if Wan-Bissaka goes and we don't sign Frimpong, who do we sign? And Frimpong's not an easy deal to do, because he's got a release clause, and we know we can't afford to pay the release clauses. We'd have to renegotiate some sort of deal with Leverkusen, who might not be willing to do it. And there are other clubs interested in Frimpong. But I don't know who we'd go for at right back if we didn't go for Frimpong after Wan-Bissaka is gone, and therefore that's exciting as well. Dom says, we need to start offloading some players though, but all seems to be going well at the moment with incoming. Can't wait to see what happens with Yoro, says Dom. Well, Wan-Bissaka would be a player out the door, wouldn't he? What is it with Agate? We'll talk about that in a moment, Adrian. What are your thoughts on Ruud and Heck being offered only 2-year deals, considering Ten Hag expires on 2026? What are Ineos thinking? Sarvesh, I think 2-year deals for Ruud and Heck are all about, this is a 2 years project. A lot of people saying Chalobah or Dumfries could be an option at right backs as Victor. I think Dumfries has only got a year left on his contract, and again, he is a player that we've been linked to in the past, so you're probably right there. I'm not bothered about the Ruud van Nistelrooy and the Heck and the Ten Hag 2-year deal thing, because ultimately, if we're being completely selfish, it's right. You know, I'm sure Liverpool fans would like Slot to only have a 2-year deal, because if things go badly and that contract's long, what do you do? It's an expense for the football club. You know, Ineos have clearly deliberated over the manager. They've made the right decision, in my opinion. But this year is interesting. It's the first year working together. And if this year goes well, then next year there'll be new contracts for everybody. But if this year goes badly, you're back where you were at the end of last season, and you're probably looking to move him on. So the 2-year thing's fine by me. There's no guarantee that everything's going to work well. It gives a massive, massive, massive incentive to Ruud and Leny and Ten Hag that they don't have massive contracts, and they've got to hit the ground running. And whilst we all know it's going to be a long process and a project, there are also, requirements in year one to show real movement forward from everybody. What if Ashworth does really bad? He'll be gone as well. Morning, Mark. I'm hopeful that we'll avoid overpaying and getting into the sagas this summer, says James. We've heaped too much pressure on signings in the past. Is Ineos a selling factor for incoming players, says Ing? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think footballers would look at Ineos and go, ooh, I want to sign for them. I mean, what have Ineos done in football? Nice, not been that successful. We're Manchester United selling a project. I think Manchester United sell to players much the same as PSG, Bayern Munich, Barcelona. Look at how Real Madrid's name sells to players as well. Manchester United still retain that pull, in my opinion. Vicky says, hi Mark, thoughts on any chances of bringing in academy graduates to boost the midfield like Dan Gore or Hannibal? He signed the new contract yesterday. I think it's an open goal that Collier is the player to watch this season. He was the player that Ten Hag was talking to after the game against Manchester City. He is the player that's been on the bench a lot recently. Physically, he looks like he's not far off being able to play first team football. He's been training with the first team for a long time, and I think the pre-season period, definitely keep your eye on Collier as to see whether he's going to be ready or not. I like Dan Gore. Very unlucky with his loan at Port Vale last season. Hannibal needs to go, in my opinion. Look, I know Hannibal's a very popular player with the chat, but he needs to go. Like, he's had ample opportunity. He completely screwed up his loan deal in Sevilla. I don't know whether there's an attitude problem or not, but yeah, he needs to be moved on. I can't have another pre-season where he looks good and everyone's telling me he's going to be a starter for Man United. Unless he has a massive change in his dedication to becoming a top-level footballer, I don't think he's going to make it at Manchester United. But look, I'd like him to. He's talented, but I'm very wary of pre-season Pirlos. And I think the great thing about the younger players is they're never going to be a pre-season Pirlo because they're always going to be potential. And I think that's what we're looking at here. Do you think we need a backup goalkeeper, says Rowan? I think if Biinda goes, we might look at a backup goalkeeper. I know we were linked with that Suzuki again. Akash says, any news on Sancho? Rumoured a while ago Wilcox wanted to sort the beef out between him and Ten Hag. Would save us needing to buy a winger this summer. Akash, I think anybody hoping that we'll sort out the issue with Jadon Sancho, where is he? Where is Jadon Sancho at the moment? I don't know. He's not back in training yet. Will he be back on Monday? Does that open up opportunities? Potentially it does do. But I don't. The problem with Jadon Sancho is that I don't think there is a very warm feeling from the majority of this fan base to want Sancho back. I mean, I see social media, I see the live chat. I don't think people want Sancho back. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but I don't think they do. What about a right back who can play centre back as well, says Grace. Sounds fantastic. Leny Yoro. 90 Stephen says, did you see ESPN clip of Mark Ogden shitting all over the ZIRKZEE signing, also saying fans should be concerned with Dutch coaches being appointed, saying it seems like jobs for the boys? I mean, look, 90 Stephen, you raise a great point. I mean, I need to talk to you about Casemiro and a couple of other transfer stories. It's a news show, but I like it when people bring stuff like this in, because as a community, we're always going to, have opinion on things that are out there that are being said. I don't know whether that's true about what Stephen's saying about Mark Ogden saying that the ZIRKZEE signing's a bad signing and that Ruud and Leny, Dutch coaches, jobs for the boys. I don't know whether that's true. So I'm not going to talk about Mark Ogden's comments in any, semblance of, I'm having a go at that. But it fits quite nicely with what I said to you yesterday afternoon, that, and I've said it to you for years, and I'll say this and we'll move on. In my opinion, which I'm entitled to, and plenty of people have had opinions about me that aren't true. So in my opinion, for many years in the media, amongst the ex-player community at times, and certainly amongst our fan base at times, there is a bias that I just don't understand as a British person. There is a bias to anything that's not British. It feels to me that, if you've got a British passport, it's absolutely fine. Jobs for the boys deserve to get picked, but if you're British, it's fine. The minute you're a foreign player or a foreign coach, it's all gloves are off. Let's get going with the bigotry and shit like that. So I literally said this yesterday. Like, you know, that from day one, Ten Hag was linked to an Ajax player, and it was jobs for the boys. It was the Eredivisie's crap. Massive risk buying players from the Eredivisie. Arrogance around British things. Ruud van Nistelrooy did a very, very good job at PSV and is a very, very well-respected coach that Burnley wanted. And Leny has a very, very good reputation as well. Arne Slot has just been taken on by Liverpool from the Eredivisie. How can it be jobs for the boys when they are good coaches? And of course, if I'm a manager and I want to bring 2 coaches in and I've got the choice between 2 Dutch coaches that I know that are good and 2 Italian coaches that I don't know, I'm going to go with the people that I know. So there we go. Very, very refreshing seeing deals getting done snappy. Excited to see what the season brings on the holidays in Egypt. Up the United Stands, says Bailey. Have a great holiday. Do you think we'll be getting top 4, says Adrian? I think it's too early to be predicting that at the moment. I mean, nobody is really doing any transfers, are they? I mean, what are Arsenal doing? What are Man City doing? What are Chelsea doing? What are Villa doing? We finished 8th. I can't predict we're going to finish 4th when I don't know what other people are doing at the moment. There are a lot of salty journalists around Manchester United at the moment as well because they're not getting information as well. You know, I got sent something the other day from somebody sent it to me, and it was a journalist who attends Man United press conferences who was moaning in print about Man United not giving them anything and giving it to certain people. Do your job better. Journalism is going out getting your own sources, isn't it? I think we will buy 1 midfielder, and Amrabat's situation will depend on Casemiro staying or leaving, says Sarvish. I think Amrabat knows, hence he is waiting. Good point. Could be a good point. Well done. Well done. Mark Ogden did say those stuff, Mark, but even if he did, he's not the only one, Dylan. He's not the only one, is he? Anyway, let's go back to some transfer news. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. I think I agree with Andrew Lee as well. I think there are people in the media who are already praying for Ten Hag's downfall. Yes, I definitely do. But look, going back to the news, Mason Greenwood, Fabrizio's update on Mason Greenwood is that we are waiting on the green light from Mason Greenwood to sign for Marseille on the contract. He's given them their green light on the project of ZIRKZEE. He wants to go to Marseille. It's now about giving the green light on the contract. Manchester United, of course, have given the green light on the deal, gone from concrete to green light, and 27 million package pounds with a big sell on percentage to Marseille, to Manchester United from Marseille. Greenwood is interested in the greenlit the project. Now it's about greenlighting the wages. So look, let's wait and see how quickly that can happen. But again, he's not training with the first team. He's not going to train with the first team. So if he wants to get involved in pre-season, then he needs to be getting that done. And also from Fabrizio Romano, around the Casemiro situation, Manchester United and Saudi talks. Romano talk about that last night. L'Equipe, the French outlet, have said that Manchester United midfielder Casemiro has opened talks with Saudi Pro League side Al Ittihad over a potential move to the club, and it's now been reported that he's in negotiations with them ahead of potentially making the switch to the Middle East. Well, look, I think with the outgoings, we might not get this, but it would be nice to be in a position where we actually get some clarity on, you know, who's going and who's not. And Casemiro certainly fits into that category. I'm updating on you on Leny Yoro in a moment. But I think Casemiro certainly fits into that category, doesn't he? Where if he's going to stay, let's just find out. If he's going to go, let's move him on, because it's quite a pivotal position. We came into this summer transfer window and we knew we needed another striker. You know, it's nothing against Rasmus. We haven't got another striker. We have to have 2. It would be nice to have 3, but we have to have 2. We came into this summer transfer window knowing that the centre-back situation was a farce, as we saw last season, and we needed to buy 2. The midfield situation, I believe, games are won and lost in the midfield, and our midfield balance is not very good. I don't think... Look, Scott McTominay, whatever you think about him, is an attacking midfielder. Mason Mount's an attacking midfielder. Bruno Fernandes is an attacking midfielder. Christian Eriksen is an attacking midfielder. I think Kobe Mainoo at 19, it's hard to say what he is. He can play as a 6, but I think he's an 8. And Casemiro is a 6. We don't have any 8s, and we don't really have enough 6s. So if Casemiro goes, we've still got 4 attacking midfielders. Mainoo, does Amrabat stay? He can play as a 6, and then Agate can play as a 6, and your balance is better straight away. So I think that the midfield is a massive area, and if Casemiro stays, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? Does that mean that's the end of the Agate deal? Why would you buy Agate if you're keeping Casemiro on 300 grand a week? So I think that resolving this Casemiro situation is preferable. What is very, very clear about Casemiro is that he is a player that Manchester United want to move on. For a multitude of reasons, we want to move Casemiro on. None more so than the fact that he's on 300 grand a week and he had a bad season last year. I think, somebody said this to me a few weeks ago and they're absolutely spot on. Marcus Rashford's on 300 grand a week. Why don't Man United want to sell him? I think if Marcus Rashford was 30, they'd be getting rid of him. I think if Marcus Rashford had 2 years left on his deal, they'd be getting rid of him. The thing about Rashford is he's 26. Yes, he's Manc born and bred and all that, but also he's got a massive contract. And I think it's in United's interest to try and get something out of that investment. But with Casemiro, as we were talking about yesterday, he's a player that when he was at the top of the mountain was a fantastic player. But we've bought him when he's walking down the mountain and he's just going to keep getting worse, really. So we need to move him on. Categorically, Manchester United want to move him on. Casemiro, I think if you put an arm around him and said, please don't go, he would be happy to stay. But United aren't going to offer that arm. They're not. They know that they can move on. They know that they can save a bit of money. And they know that if they don't do it this summer, they're going to be doing it next summer anyway. So get on with it. I think that's the way Manchester United have looked at this, actually. I think it's a bit like, do you want to be high up a ladder that you don't really want to climb or isn't going to go to the level that you want? Or would you want to go to the bottom of the ladder you want to climb? And I think when you look at Casemiro and you look at Harry Maguire and you look at Varane and you look at Martial and a few others and you go, even if we keep them this summer, next summer the problem's more prominent. They're a year older. They've got a year left on their contract. It's gone, which means there's a cheaper transfer value. So, Casemiro is 100% a player that Man United want to move on. And I think it's right. And I remember saying in January that, we shouldn't be getting rid of Varane and we shouldn't be getting rid of Casemiro. But actually looking at it now in relation to the changes that are happening at the football club and the type of project players we're buying, and I think that's the big thing. I think if Man United had been, and just bear with me on this because people will say, well, you're a flip-flop. You didn't want Varane to go and now you say it's okay. You didn't want Casemiro to go and now you're saying it's okay. Because I think it's all about the mentality, isn't it? If Manchester United had somehow presented a scenario where they were going to try and fight for the title next year or the Champions League if we'd been in it, then I'd be saying, if next year is really important, then another year of Varane makes sense. But we're not going to do that. Next year, we're going to be fighting for fourth and we're not in the Champions League. And we're definitely looking at a 2, 3, 4 year project, which I'm comfortable with. It's realistic. Well, there's no point having Varane for that because even if he gives you one more year, he ain't going to give you year 3 and 4 or 2 or 3. So I would have kept Varane because I think he was our best centre-back. But looking at the project we're building, I understand that there's no point. There's no point in having Varane for another year on 300 grand a week because we're not going to do anything big next year. It's going to be 2, 3 years. Same with Harry Maguire. Maguire could do a job next year. Varane could do a job next year. Casemiro might do a job next year, but will he do a job the year after? And then you've got to solve the problem again next summer. You're better off removing them now and getting your project in now and working ahead on your project from now instead of kicking it down the road. And that's sort of why I've changed my mind. De Villiers says, any news regarding Xavi Simons and United? I mean, only as much as there's news about Dani Olmo. I mean, I saw Man United getting linked to Dani Olmo this morning, 50 million release clause. He's clearly going to leave Leipzig. Man City are linked to him. But my look, I can't sit here and say we're not going to sign Dani Olmo or we're not going to sign Xavi Simons because I didn't think we were going to sign De Ligt. I remember saying about De Ligt when we got linked to him, I said, no way will that happen. He's on 260 grand a week. We're not paying wages like that. And that's still something I'm really excited about De Ligt, is that I want us to sign him now, but I can't wait to see what the wage is going to be, because if we give him 250 grand a week, are we sort of being a little bit hypocritical, or are we going to get him down to like 200 grand a week? Because that was always a problem, I thought. But so I can't sit here and say we're not going to sign Dani Olmo. But what I can do is say, why would you sign Xavi Simons or Dani Olmo? Why would you do that? We've already got an abundance of attacking midfielders. Bruno, Mount. Whatever you say about McTominay, whether you think he's good enough or not, he's definitely an attacking midfielder. He certainly is not an 8 or a 6. He just can't do that role. So if you're bringing McTominay on, you bring him on in a place where he can score goals, because that's what he's good at. So we've got McTominay, we've got Bruno, and we've got Mount. Why would you bring in Dani Olmo or another number 10? It doesn't make any sense to me. I understand bringing a winger in. I don't understand why you bring another number 10 in. And there are players in the youth that can play that position as well. They might not be ready next year, but we have got players in the youth who can play that position as well. So I don't really understand why we'd do it. Also, I've got to be honest, I know more about Dani Olmo because we've been linked for him for longer. With Simons, I don't actually massively rate him. And I'm not judging him just on the Netherlands. When I've watched him play, which admittedly isn't that much, but I think he strikes me as a player that might be a little bit hipster overrated. I don't see what people are talking about in relation to we've got to go and get him. And it's been going on for a couple of years. I don't see it. But being Dutch, maybe we will sign him. I don't know. Until a player bucks the trend and could be Yoro and picks a club that values them more than Madrid, they will always be arrogant in the market. We're about to talk about that, Martin. And what do you think about Ndoye as a right winger? Says Let Him Speak. I just think he's a player that's done well in the Euros, mate, and I think that's my problem with him. I don't really know much about him. If we had the resources, I would love getting Agate while keeping Casemiro so that Agate can learn and evolve by training and playing with him, says Joskian. And Jim says, sell Casemiro, get Agate and keep Amrabat. A few people talking about that this morning. Is that something you would do? Hi, Mark. Ineos is really turning me on, says Karen. No, sorry. Hi, Mark. Ineos is really turning it on. I was going to say, Karen, it's Friday and you're getting turned on a Monday morning by Ineos. What is it? Sir Jim's voice? Sir David Brailsford's hairdo? The logo, the name, Ineos? What is it? But, sorry, I've misread that, Karen. He might be mortified, sorry. He says, hi, Mark. Ineos is really turning it on. For the first time in a decade, I'm excited and looking forward to the next season. Maybe it is turning him on then. For the first time in a decade, excited. Maybe it was that. We spoke about that as well. Mark, I have a 6 on the couch beside me, if you want, says MMA Takedown. And Kavok says, people complain about Dutch influence with staff and coaches, but Ange has Aussie coaches and no one bats an eyelid. Yeah. And is it true Camboala don't want to sign a new contract, says Grace? Well, it's a story from 2 days ago. And Joe says, watch out for my pal Ashton missing coming through, says Joe. Can you give us a rough percent? Well, here we go. We're going to talk about Yoro now. Tubby says, hi, Mark. Could you give us a rough percentage we sign Leny Yoro? I like the question. I really do like the question. Thank you very much for putting it in. Don't get excited, Karen. I'm talking about the question there. Really interesting that you mentioned that about Leny Yoro, because there is an update this morning. And it's coming in from Fabrizio Romano. And what he's basically saying is that, yes, everybody's aware that Manchester United have had an official bid accepted by Lille for Leny Yoro. However, Manchester United's position, as they continue discussions with Yoro, has not altered the position of Bayern Munich, who are very much of a position where they're confident that they'll get the player, where they have expressed and repeated their desire to bring him in as a top priority, And that's from Fabrizio Romano. Now, Sky Sports News, sometimes called Slow Sports News, Manchester United are not ready to give up on Yoro despite his preference to be a Real Madrid player. Lille would prefer for Yoro to move to Old Trafford for obvious reasons, whereas Real are not going to match that offer. I mean, it's Slow Sports News because it's not much of an update. And look, thank God for communities with people like you in it. We do say it how it is. We've been doing it for years. I think in some ways we're having the best summer transfer window we've ever had. And then in other ways, there's a lot of crap out there. I think there are a lot of outlets out there at the moment that have got no news and repackage the news in the same way that you know. And this is why we've always done what we do on here, because it's finger to the pulse. Where's the news? Let's get it out and discuss it. And I think that I see it time and time again where I'll see a story as breaking news on this or breaking news on that, and it's literally been put out 2 days ago. They're just repackaging it for clicks. Like, Man United are increasingly confident or still confident that they can get a Leny Yoro deal done, even though he wants to go to Real Madrid. I mean, I heard that 3 weeks ago. I heard it 2 weeks ago. I heard it when the bid went in. I mean, what sort of update is that? The bottom line is Real Madrid are sat there contacting Yoro through his agent saying, we want you. The season doesn't start till August. We want you. And if you want us, just sit tight. And that's what Real Madrid are doing. Lille want him to go to Manchester United because they'll get £44 million. They know they'll never get £44 million out of Real Madrid. And Man United obviously want him to come to us and have offered a big fee to try and turn his head because they know Lille will accept it. And that's where we are. And ultimately, if he wants to go to Real Madrid, Lille won't get anywhere near what they want and we won't get the player. So my percentage on Leny Yoro was probably 50-50, but then when Rio Ferdinand started begging on that clip, all hope was lost, because when he touches something, things go wrong. I'm here in Qatar tomorrow. Anyway, jokes aside, I think he'll go to Real Madrid. Yeah. I feel like once the Lit's here we go, and maybe we go back for Branthwaite, the Yoro story will just disappear like Benzema and Camavinga and Varane did all those years ago. I think we've legitimately tried to get players before that end up going to Real Madrid, and I'm not opposed to it, but I've always said about Yoro, he's going to go to Real Madrid because, and I'll be happy to be wrong, but I've played the game. We've seen this story before. Real Madrid took Cristiano Ronaldo from us when we'd just been in the Champions League final. We were winning the Premier League every year. We were getting to the Champions League final every year. 2008, 2000, we did it in 08 and we did it in 09. And I think we would have kept doing it if Ronaldo had stayed. If Cristiano Ronaldo had stayed at Man United, we would have kept winning the league. We would have kept getting to the final of the Champions League. We would have probably won another 4 or 5 Champions Leagues with him. He wanted to go and play for Real Madrid. If he had stayed at Man United, we'd have kept winning the league and we would have kept winning the Champions League because he was that good. And he went to Real Madrid because he wanted to go to Real Madrid. So whether it's experience or not, and there'll be a lot of people who remember that and before, I've played the game. Real Madrid are the only club in the world that can basically do this to anybody. And I don't see a situation where they say they want a player who wants to sign for them and he suddenly decides to play for Man United, who are not even in the Champions League anyway. I don't see how we stop that. And Mohamed says, can you blame him? I'm not even playing the blame game. I'm not even playing the blame game. I'm playing the reality game. I don't see how we turn that deal around. If we did, it would be epic. But even that makes me think we won't, because it'd be turning his back on Real Madrid for Manchester United, which would be a massive embarrassment to Real Madrid. So I don't see how we do this. And I don't agree with people who say, we must have had some encouragement from the player. I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that. You know, I just don't, because we've tried this before and it didn't work. It didn't work with Camavinga. It didn't work with Benzema, as someone said. And also, somebody would say, well, we must have had some encouragement from the agent. Oh, you better bloody believe it. If I'm the agent of Leny Yoro, right, and I know that Leny Yoro wants to go to Real Madrid, and I know that Real Madrid want him, and Man United offer 42 million, I'm definitely going to talk to Man United. I've got no intention of Yoro going there, and I'd say to Yoro, don't worry, but we're going to come back from Man United with a really good wage package, agent fee, and then we're going to go to Real Madrid and say, look, we want to wait for you. Don't care what you pay Lille, but what you're going to pay us. So you speak to Man United, who say, we'll give you, 170 grand a week, and we'll give your agent 7 million. And then you go and speak to Real Madrid and go, look, I know you don't want to give Lille 44 million, but they're going to give us 170 grand a week, and they're going to give me 5 million as an agent. So, you've got to do better than that if you want us to wait around. And there you go. So it's in there. There's absolutely great reason for Leny Yoro and his agent to talk to Man United, because you get good terms, then you take them to Real Madrid and you get even better terms. And then you might go back to Man United and say, they've offered this, and you might be able to... Lille will be the big loser, because Lille will not get what they want if Real Madrid get hold of Leny Yoro, because they will just sit there and wait until the end. But should we try for Kim Min-jae again, says Keel. I don't think he's a player that Bayern Munich are looking to sell, to be honest. I think there's a good player there. I wouldn't sit here and say, if Man United went for Kim Min-jae, I wouldn't sit here and go, what are we doing? I would sit here and go, well, it's very similar to Ligt. There's a player there that's got a lot of potential, who at Bayern Munich, it's been a bit 50-50, but Kim Min-jae for me was a brilliant player at Napoli, and I still think there's a good player there, but we're not in for him at the moment, and I can't see us getting 2 centre-backs out of Bayern Munich. But if we did go for him, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but there's no reason to go for him, and I don't think we will. Valban says, hi Mark, yes, ZIRKZEE is a player which can play a few positions and is good all round. However, what does that mean going forward? Are we going to be signing another striker with more experience? Never say never, Valban, because we have been linked to people like Tony and Calvert-Lewin, but I don't see us going for another striker unless it's late on in the window. I think if we go for an experienced striker, it will be the last few days of the window. I don't see it being a priority now. And I think what we'll do is we'll see how the season starts. We'll see how pre-season goes. You need ZIRKZEE part of that as well at the start of August to look at the balance of the squad. And I think, it's not Ten Hag who's just going to be asking now. I think conversations will be happening on the regular, and they'll be talking to Dan Ashworth, and maybe around mid-August they'll go, look, squad's good, but we're a little bit light up front. Is there a deal we can do in the last week or so around somebody that's a bit experienced? So I think we might do something, but I think it would be later on, and who that would be as well, I don't know. Saifu, that guy, says, I've just missed my flight to London, and now unfortunately have to wait to say, we're in London, aren't we? Oh, yeah. I thought you were in London. You will be in there. Biggin says, I think Joselu for 5 million would have been a steal. There we go. Just on ZIRKZEE, by the way, apologies, but if you've been watching till later on in the show, you're going to get this as a bit of an exclusive. Will we see Manchester United officially sign ZIRKZEE today? It's Friday. It's probably Friday for a lot of you, so it's the weekend tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, end of the working week today. It's just approaching 11 a.m. in the UK. Will we see Manchester United announce Joshua ZIRKZEE with some, quotes, holding up the shirt, etc.? Our first official signing of the season. We've had the here we go, but we know the next and final stage is official. Probably get some quotes from Ashworth or Ten Hag as well, which will be interesting. I would say if we're going to get ZIRKZEE today official, it's going to be later on this afternoon, because medical was taking place this morning. Then you've got to do photos and interview. So I don't think we're going to get it any time before 3 o'clock. I think if we did get it, it would be later on this afternoon. And it's just whether Man United want to make a bit of a splash on it. And, United will know, as I know, the times to drop things, and Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock ain't a busy time on social media compared to, let's say, Monday morning at 11. So they might wait. They might wait, they might not. But the flip side to that coin is, if you know tomorrow you've got Here We Go with the Lit, and you want to get that done for Monday, you might just go, let's get ZIRKZEE out at 3 o'clock today, because we've got other things to do. In the past, where United weren't doing very many deals, I think they would wait a few days to get more bounce. But if we're working on other things, I think we might move quite quickly on it. So watch this space later on this afternoon. Another update coming in actually from Sky Sports, Slow Sports News. Lazio are still working on a deal to sign Mason Greenwood, but they are yet to match Marseille's 26.6 million offer to Manchester United. Slow Sports News. Unfortunately, it's sad how they've fallen off. Really, it really is. But they were warned about the arrogance of the mainstream, and they're miles off. What? Anything else? Anything else? Okay. Medical done. What do you think about Darwin Núñez? I haven't really watched the Copa America enough to be a strong observer on it, and also sometimes you just don't have to have an opinion on it. I think he'll end up with a ban. Yeah. Do you agree it would have been better to sign a proven and more experienced striker to share the load with Rasmus, for example, Ivan Toney, for around the same price as ZIRKZEE, instead of having two unproven youngsters, says Jackie. Jackie, I think you raise a great point. However, I think we almost have to fact check a little bit. A lot of people agreeing with Jackie that we should have gone for Toney over ZIRKZEE. Two things I would say. First of all, beware the negativity. The guy's not even played for Man United yet, and some people are saying it's a bad signing, which is not normally what we do. I never wanted Leny. I never wanted Matic, but when they sign, give them a chance. So give them a chance. You know, we've had right shit at the club over the years. You know, think about people like, Vegor, Stegalo, up front I'm talking about. So first of all, give the lad a chance. He's only young, and he's a project, and he's potential. Second of all, let's fact check that. There's absolutely no way that you're getting Ivan Toney for 40 million euros, paying 12 million a year. So that's the answer. Like, we were, the ZIRKZEE Toney thing isn't even comparable, because Brentford will want 60 million, which is 66 million euros, and they probably would want at least installments of 30, 15, 15 over 3 years, whereas ZIRKZEE is going to cost us 35 million pounds, where we're going to be paying 12 million for the next 3 years. So it's a completely different financial package. Also, Ivan Toney's probably going to want more than 90 grand a week. So you can't say that it was an either or between Toney and ZIRKZEE. If you wanted Toney, you're basically going to need to find another 30 million pounds as well. I'm all for cautious optimism for the new signing, says Rahul. I agree. I absolutely agree. What does Marseille see that I don't, says Isaiah. In relation to what? And Tom Grant says, how are we looking with Agarte? I think Agarte is going to ramp up next week, because he is still part of the Uruguay squad. They have got this 3rd, 4th place game coming up, I think, in the early hours of Sunday morning. But I think the minute he's out of that and wants to go on holiday, I think, again, as we've seen with ZIRKZEE, the minute he was out of that Euros squad, the Netherlands, it's here we go. And I think the same thing might happen with Agarte, because there is interest in Agarte from other clubs, but he wants to come to Manchester United. So I think we can just move on that one very quickly. But obviously, I think we need to use that time to, move forward on what's going to happen with Casemiro as well, because Amrabat's clearly waiting on that as well. I think it's a great point. What about Zubimendi, says the United Wings? Well, again, with Zubimendi, he's part of the Spanish squad, but I've not heard anything around United and that either. So there we go. Talk about Mount's place in the squad, says Abdullah. Well, maybe we can talk about that on the 8 o'clock show, because we've got the 8 o'clock show tonight, which we all love. I'll be running up the hill from the pub, and I've got some memberships to give away as well. So do not miss the 8 o'clock show tonight. And we can talk about Mason Mount in a little bit more depth, because it's that different type of show. Thanks everyone for watching this morning. Absolute legends as per usual. Really, really enjoyed it. Of course, make sure you subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, because as yesterday, we got that here we go around 4 o'clock, and we could well get something very similar today at some point over the next 24 hours, 48 hours, especially with the Ligt. And obviously, we've got the official announcement of ZIRKZEE. We've got the 2 o'clock show as well. Beth's back with you for that. Yeah, make sure you subscribe. There are going to be breaking stories where we're going live at different times throughout the next few weeks. So get involved. Legends as per usual. I'll speak to you all in a bit.